Друзья, можно заходить. Сейчас, как обычно, сначала помолимся, споем «Царю Небесный» на русском. Все зашли? Все, кто пришел, зашли? Да. Хорошо. «Царю Небесный» 3-4. Царю Небесный, утешителю души истины, и же везде сы, и вся исполняя сокровище благих, и жизни подателю, приди, вселися вны, и очистены от всякие скверны, и спаси блаже души наша. Пожалуйста, можно садиться. Не стесняемся наливать чай. Я думаю, кто-то из молодых людей поухаживает. Чайник тяжелый, полный. Всем хватит. Угощайтесь пирожком, конфеткой. Так. Антон, наверное, можно сесть? Вот. Как бы мне вас всех видеть. Значит, сегодня у нас будет очередная беседа. И тема будет «Воцерковление». С кем-то мы с вами уже об этом говорили. Как обычно, у нас есть по подготовленной теме ряд, так скажем, неоднозначных вопросов, интересных для обсуждения, для дискуссии. После того, как мы будем обсуждать каждый из вопросов, мы будем смотреть, каково авторитетное мнение по данному вопросу в Священном Писании, в святых отцах, что они писали, что из житий их видно, в современных отцах. Посмотрим интересное видео, которого мы еще не видели на английском языке и так далее. Как я говорил раньше, заранее, в ответы не смотрим в авторитетные, потому что иначе тогда неинтересно обсуждать вопросы, если сразу знаешь, в чем суть. Вот. Давайте начнем. У нас у всех есть распечатка. Там чаек подливаем себе. Он, по-моему, уже сразу с сахаром. Берем конфетку в руку, не стесняемся. Итак, дальше на английском. Если кому-то что-то непонятно, или кто-то не знает слова, как сказать, или кто-то другой сказал, его не поняли, мы все учимся, поэтому не стесняемся спросить. Можно на русском спросить, как помогите, я не знаю, как сказать тоже. Итак. Churching. Churching is воцерковление, right? And the first question is the traditional question for the beginning of a class, and it asks what the churching is. What comes to your mind when you hear word churching? How would you explain churching to another person who hears about it for the first time? What do you think? Yes, please.
I can tell. I believe that churching is when one person becomes a member of a church and practically acting member. It means that not only believer but also active member of some communion of people which we call church, some confession.
Right, and
he becomes like he attends liturgies and all the church services and try to pray, try to fulfill the rules which set in the church or by church.
Anything else to add? Yes, please.
I think if we speak about religious people, churching is kind of an antonym to just being baptized. So you can just be baptized and call yourself, I am an Orthodox Christian, but you really are not one. Or you can start churching yourself, and then you become a member of church.
Right, and well, anything else? Is that it?
But maybe sometimes it's wrongly understood, and people think that churching is simply getting acquainted to some traditions or customs of Christian life. So maybe it's a part, but not the main one.
Not
Of
main.
church.
All right. Yes, please.
And maybe that's a complete change of your everyday life. So changing your habits, everyday habits, when you're churching.
All right. And do you also know that there is such a thing when a person is baptized by a priest? Then at a certain point in the church building, he is churched or she is churched. The boy is brought to altar with the man, and then the girl would probably be brought to the icon of Theotokos, and certain prayers are read, and this is also called churching.
Really?
Yeah.
It's a part of the.
It's baptism, which is крещение. Yeah, so formally there is a churching kind of as a part of the mystery, the sacrament of baptism, but also churching us, getting to know, active Christian life.
Churching as a rite, as a part of a rite.
Yes, but it's not a rite like, for example, a tradition to kiss at a wedding when everybody's crying "Gorka." Churching has certain effect on the person, a spiritual effect. It kind of impacts the person rather than being just a nice-looking tradition which doesn't have any real impact. Anyway, as you can see, or you might guess, we have a reputable opinion on this question. And can you please go to the next page, where we have text number 1. And as usual, the difficult words are highlighted in bold and have their translation on the right to facilitate, we have to interpret this interaction now so that it is easier. And please, we need one volunteer who would like to. Marina, you look like a volunteer today. Can you please interpret this text number 1? And everybody else follows.
Иеромонах Нектарий Морозов. Воцерковление означает изучение основ православного учения и сознательный вход в церковную жизнь. Воцерковление – это как становление частью организма церкви. Это трансформация номинального христианина в настоящего христианина. Воцерковление означает вход в церковную жизнь настолько глубоко, что это становится вашей жизнью во всю полноту.
Благодарю, отлично. Thank you. Can you please go to the title page with the questions? And let us jump to question number 3. I think it's more relevant to the first one. It asks, basically, what do you need to get churched? What should you do to get churched? With what should a person begin to get churched? What do you do for that? What do you think?
I believe that one should begin introduction to church by praying, maybe understanding, trying to understand what he or she is praying about, and reading books. I mean, the Bible first one, and the Gospel, then getting morally, so to speak, prepared to confession, to some important things that take part in church, and maybe trying to love people around you.
I love people around you, yeah.
It's a big problem, I believe.
Anything else to add? Yes, please. No?
Well, maybe
Yes. Alexander, go
a
ahead.
person should start participating in church services.
Church services, right.
And automatically he will become more and more churched, taking part in.
All right. What was your experience when you first got to know Christian life? What did you do the first thing?
I nearly fainted.
You nearly fainted?
Yes, because the impact was so great. Well, it took me just some time to get used to it.
I see. What is the most difficult thing in getting churched? Tatiana, what was the most difficult thing for you?
Maybe the first confession, that was the most difficult thing, because it should be quite thorough. You should remember all your sins, little sins and big sins, and you should mention all of them and in some way just regard the whole of your life. So just the first confession, maybe then just to reject the habits of the past. It was quite difficult, because churching is not only participating in services, becoming active member, but it kind of organization of your everyday life. For me, it was quite difficult, because there are some people I couldn't communicate with. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
All right. Anything else? Your experience?
Maybe decide will be Orthodox.
Just to decide?
Yes.
To make the decision? All right. So what else do you do to get churched?
Can I
Yes, please.
I was Orthodox from almost from my birth, but I think the most difficult is to change the habits.
To change the habits.
To change your everyday
Yes,
life.
when
Is
somebody
the crucial
gets churched when he is an adult.
Mm-hmm. What do you think is kind of the way to full Christian life when you're adult, to get baptized, not to get baptized, but what is more difficult, to be a fully churched person if you are a Christian from birth, or when you become a Christian when you're adult? What is this here?
I believe it depends, because many people experienced when they started as active members of church since their birth, and afterwards they became a part of church and not active Christian, or went out of church. And some of them just baptized at 30 or even later, and became very famous Christians or even saints. So it depends on personality and some personal way of life for a particular person, I believe.
Maybe it's easier to be in church since your childhood, as you get used to everything around you, and you don't take many effort to get to know what's the order in here. So maybe it's easier in a way, and that means that you were at least brought up in Christian way. So for you it's much easier.
Yes, please. Sure.
I've heard stories about people who got baptized when they were adults, and it may be extremely difficult if they are not thoroughly prepared for this procedure, because after baptism they get a lot of, I don't know how to say, благодать, a lot of
grace.
Grace, yes. And it seems to them that it will be forever like this. Now I'm a member of church, and I will always be happy and love everybody and so on. But after a month or something, they get back to their previous state, and then they feel real despair. Like they realize that now they have to work, life got back to the previous state. It is very difficult for them. So you must understand what you will feel after baptism and read a lot before you take this.
All right. But then is it kind of more proper? It's a tricky question, so I'm tricking you a little bit. But what do you think is more kind of has a greater potential for Christian life, to become a Christian when you're born, and baptized, or when you're led to live without baptism until you get adult, and you're baptized, and you have this opportunity to make a conscious decision on the baptism?
Well, I think that personal decision is the most important thing, because when you are baptized, when you are a child, and you don't understand what is happening to you, and you just got used to these services, to these prayers, but you don't understand the value of it. And when you get it after a long period of pagan life, you just can compare to different states, and it is more firm. It could be more firm foundation for your faith than just a tradition of your family.
All right. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with Alexander. And moreover, when you became a Christian when you were adult, you just regret many things that you already have done in your life, and it makes you, how to say, remember that you are not as good as, how to say, not you're supposed to be as good as you think or as you thought, and it always, how to say, may be in your mind and help you out to go further with Christianity life.
But then, for example, if your parents, for some reason, decide to get baptized later, and kind of it's a conscious decision on their side, and then you die, just for an accident or illness, whatever. Like you're 6 months old, you're a little baby, you fall out of the window and you die, not baptized. And that's the result of deciding to get baptized sometime later. Isn't it a big risk? Yes, please.
Actually, for me, I suppose the earlier you're baptized is the better. And actually, I suppose I'm the happiest person in the world that my parents made choice for me, that they set me to be baptized. I was a year and a half, and I suppose the sooner the better. I suppose 40 days, and a little child can be baptized, because the older you get, it becomes more and more difficult to get churching. Your habits change, and you can have different environments. So, as for me, actually, I'm happy that I was baptized when I was a small child.
Yeah, not even baptized, but being brought up in a Christian way inside church, that can prevent you from sins and faults and mistakes that you will feel sorry after. So maybe this is the question of Christian life in early age.
Right, and
not even being baptized, but like leading this way of life.
Okay, but how when you are a little child, you are born. Assume you are baptized, but how do you as a parent bring up or impart this child with a Christian life when he or she is just like a few months old? He or she won't, doesn't understand anything, maybe, no?
They do understand.
Yeah, they actually do. And I heard that the best way would to bring up a little Christian in faith would be to bring him or her to communion.
Yes.
And that affects the person a lot. And you obviously cannot do that without the baptism. So I should say that the consensus now is to, even I thought, I think even in the 4th, 5th century, there was a recommendation by the church to baptize the children when they're just born or very young. And I can't remember the name of the father who said that. There was such a kind of official recommendation. In any case, speaking of things that we do to get churched, I have a great video in Russian which just gives you the list of things you need to do. It's very, very entertaining, I should say, and although it's on my computer and it's in Russian, let us probably at least listen to it, because I think it will, you'll like it a lot. Just give me a second.
I can take it.
Yes, please. Let me show you this video. You don't have to look, but at least just try to listen, all right? Because that's the main thing. Sorry?
Father Dmitry.
Yeah, so
Alexander.
exactly. So the Father Dmitry Smirnov, right? Let's start again.
Наталья из Москвы. Скажите, пожалуйста, кого называют воцерковленным человеком и как им стать?
Надо ходить в храм, нужно постоянно причащаться святых Христовых тайн, исповедоваться, нужно соблюдать пост среду и пятницу и 4 великих поста. Вот. Потом нужно обязательно читать Евангелие для начала каждый день. Вот. И весь Новый Завет. Потом обязательно не один раз прочесть весь Ветхий Завет. А потом нужно обязательно изучать церковный устав. Тоже очень полезно. И Писание святых отцов. И так постепенно произойдет воцерковление.
Такой, мы, Пашка, описали сложный путь.
Что тут сложного? Ничего сложного нет. Путь воцерковления занимает в среднем 10 лет. До этого человек считается неофит, новый обращенный.
А через 10 лет уже так смотришь.
Но при условии, никто из за 50 лет не воцерковляется, потому что ничего для этого не делает. Воцерковленный человек – это который близко к тексту знает Новый Завет, который знает церковные правила, уставы, и который соблюдает посты.
Церковные уставы и Новый Завет знают немало людей, и даже так цитируют очень близко к тексту. Но вот порой в их вопросах видно, что эти люди совершенно далеки от понимания того, что цитируют.
Понимание приходит тоже не сразу.
То есть воцерковленность – это знание, так получается, да?
Да, осмысленное знание, неформальное.
За этим дальше-то идет исполнение.
За этим дальше идет христианство. Прям шествует. Сначала воцерковленность, а потом христианство.
Воцерковленный человек еще не христианин.
Нет.
То есть он просто готов.
Это необходимое, но недостаточное условие.
That's it. So, how many years does it take to become a churched Christian?
10
A lot of time.
decades.
Yeah.
According to Father Dmitry Smirnov,
According to
But according to Maria Египетская,
It still takes more.
it may take another time.
it takes longer.
All right. So it's a challenging process, I should say, and it takes a long time to do it. I cannot say I'm a church person, obviously, based on this criteria.
But the main thing he mentioned was to read holy scripture.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so this is the main point, I think. How can you get inside the church if you don't know what is it all about? And to know it better, to understand it deeper, you have to know the best, like the best word even said.
I see. Well, that's it. I don't think we need to refer to text number 3. You can do it at home. So don't go into looking into text number 3. It's for your personal interest. If you like, you can read it at home because, well, we're here not to read but to speak. So read it at home. And let us discuss another question now. Let's see whether we have any interesting ones. I think we can actually now do question number 4. It has part A and part B. And part A says, what are the factors of success in churching? So what kind of helps you to get churched? Factors of success. Yes, please.
I think that first of all it is faith. When you do not get churched just because your nearest and dearest are churched or because you believe that it's a must, but you understand why you really do this for your soul, for a Savior, and faith will do everything for you.
Yes, please.
I suppose maybe the figure of his spiritual father is quite important. There should be some friend of yours who will galvanize you into participating in church life. It's quite important. So spiritual father and some close person, your friend or relative or someone.
I see. Well,
I can tell one.
Yes. Yes.
In my opinion. So I believe that the main obstacle to get church, it might be the image of God which one has in his own mind, because usually a person who doesn't know like God, he just imagines it and imagines him, and so it's just image, and when he meets true real God, he becomes a little bit, how to say, reluctant to get all the rules, because it used to be like everything is, how to say, good for me, and I can drink, I can do and commit some sins, and now I cannot. That's the main obstacle, I believe, and to meet real God and to follow his commandments, not the one which was imagined before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Obstacle is препятствие.
Yes. I thought when you meet God, it helps you. It's not an obstacle.
I'm just talking about meeting with a real God, because usually person just imagine a good God like like and follow his own how to say his own will, not God's will, and with that circumstances he meets a real one, and so he has to now work hard and to get to know him first of all, and to follow his commandments, the real God. That's the main obstacle. For example, when some people like used to smoke before, and they have to quit. Okay, it was good before, but now I have to do something with that, and it was, how to say, approved and confirmed for him to smoke and to have the right to smoke. Now seems he has to quit on his own will and to follow the will of God, and for example, like, or to commit some other stuff. Yeah.
Well, speaking of will, I believe one's personal will is essential, because you have to develop it. For example, very, very practical, down-to-earth things. You don't want to pray, but it's time to do prayer. You stand and you pray, and day after day, time after time, you just get used to it, and maybe, of course, with the help of God.
Yeah, and there is this in the Psalm, I believe that as the God makes the way of one person. How to say, straight way,
yes.
And we want to go like that and make some curves and to do whatever we need, but we now have to follow straight. I believe this is the main how to say problem.
Yes.
I mean that.
But so. On the other hand, there is this advice that when you start to be a believer, you don't start with actually, fulfilling all the possible rules, like praying 2 hours a day, fasting really strict, and just eating bread and water, etc. So you start with little things which meet or which kind of are up to your ability, right?
But even step by step, it takes. Time, and for example, what for I'm going to pray, I just pray like that, okay, everything is okay, thank you very much, and so on and so forth, like when I go to sleep, but I have to read something, so and person can be reluctant to it, and what for, because I'm already good, and so I believe that we as a regular people think that we are already good and we are better than many other people, and what for we have to follow something extra. We already live a good life, and we work, we earn money, we help maybe some relatives, and so that's already enough. And
Anton, I think what you said before, that you need to meet God, like get to know the real God.
Yeah.
When you get to know real God, it is very clear why you should do all that. So when you kind of get to know God, there is no question why you should spend time praying, why you should abandon smoking, why you should go to the church in the morning on Sunday, whereas everybody else is sleeping or watching TV and having breakfast. So when you get to know God, that's absolutely clear.
When you get to know, but when you are getting to know Him, that's difficult. Yes, because I believe that we as how to say human beings want to adjust God for our needs. And what to adjust it, have scriptures for our needs. And we see from the history that many people manipulated the scriptures and many things just to adjust to specific needs, something commercial or something else, or just to be more powerful, or and that's always like искушение. It's like temptation. It's like usual temptation, I believe, for a person. And I am not talking now about community.
Okay. Then you need to actually, it actually highlights the importance of this question of factors of success in churching. So we mentioned spiritual father or kind of true Christian friend who can help. What else? Yes, please.
You should have a good community in your church. In case you fall, they will help you to stand up.
I should say this is a very high requirement, because you need to have very close relationships with people for you to be to be free to share your state, your spiritual state.
When you're a very young Christian, you need support from other Christians who are more experienced, and when you're experienced yourself, you should help others, newcomers.
Probably.
Unless you have no support from your family, so it's even more important when you don't have support in your family.
Yes.
Alexandra, you wanted to say something?
It seems to me that some people, and maybe the most people that want to be in the church because they don't want to lead his life without sin. They want to be seen, and that's why it's can them to hinder to get church.
I see. Yeah. Which example do we know from the gospel where a person wouldn't want to leave his sin or his passion and stepped away from God?
Young man.
Yeah, young man.
What happened there?
Because when he was told, if you want to be perfect, you have to leave all your property and follow me and take your cross with you. He just was very disappointed by that saying and just step away. And the gospel explains us that he had a very, how to say, he was very wealthy, and that's why he was so disappointed. He don't want to abandon it, and he didn't want to abandon it.
You know, it means that he had, in this case, he had to change his life completely, to alter himself. And this is a very painful moment when you have to reject everything you got used to and change your life. So when it comes to a real life, it becomes extremely difficult to be a Christian, to fulfill your life with what you have read, you were taught in church. So it's all beautiful on paper, like to have many friends, to have these clubs, good people around you, but when it comes to changing yourself, well, it takes a lot of effort, and it can be done only with the help of grace. So that's why we need to participate in
sacraments.
In sacraments, which were given to us to help to be in this way and not to fall over.
I see. All right, I think let us turn to this question 4B. No, it's on the title page. it's actually a quotation from the Gospel, which reads, "He said to another man, 'Follow me.' But the man replied, 'Lord, first let me go and bury my father.' Jesus said to him, 'Let the dead bury their own dead, but you go and proclaim the kingdom of God.'" So, how do you think this relates to the question of getting church? What does it mean? What's the interpretation of this piece? Why did Jesus tell him that you should follow me and let the dead bury their own dead?
Well, as far as I can understand, by dead, Jesus Christ means people who don't have faith. And therefore, a person who is supposed to be a Christian should leave things or people or whatever, everything actually, his previous life, because in the new light, in the light of God, he would see some things in different way.
But what do you mean to leave people? We're actually supposed to love people, not to leave them, no?
Yes, we do, and actually we do love them, but the thing is that we love people all right, but we don't love sins that are that's the problem. I don't mean to be critical, no, I don't want to criticize people, but maybe we'll just pay more attention to the person itself, but not to the sin that the person has. Do I explain myself?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you.
Well, yes, please.
When I read the explanation of this piece in the Gospel, there was an opinion that his father wasn't dead in that moment. So what this person meant was not like I have to attend the funeral and then I will be here. But he meant that first I need to live with my family for some time and then I will take my decision to follow you, Lord. But God says that you need determination. If you want to quit your previous sinful life, you need to do it. If you are in two minds, it means that you are not ready.
That's an interesting one. Do you remember who said that? Who wrote this commentary? Very interesting.
Do you remember watching the film last time?
Which one?
About monastery and the monk who lives in Valam monastery, and we know that he left his family, and they didn't understand him, but still, for the sake of God, for the sake of a real Christian life, he did so. That's why.
So he learned from this piece of gospel, probably.
Maybe.
Marina, you wanted to say something, right?
Yes, I just wanted to say that this passage from the Bible shows us priority. First you should follow Jesus, and then you should make all things connected with your usual life.
Okay.
Because there is time to bury people and there is time to follow Jesus.
I see. Do you want to discuss more, or should we go to reputable opinions?
Love all and run. There's a quotation from some saint.
Yeah, there was actually an interesting case when a certain hermit, отшельник, was followed by a person who wanted to have a spiritual talk with him, and the hermit was actually running away, literally. And the person who wanted to get spiritual advice cried to him, "Stop, for God, I'm chasing you, for God's sake, to have a spiritual talk with you." And he answered, "No, I'm running from you, away from you, for God's sake too." Anyway, text number 4. So it suggests 2 factors of success in churching. Obviously, this is not the full list, but something to consider. And under factor number 1, we have 4 quotations, and I don't want you to spend a lot of time reading, so let's focus on number 1, number 2, number 4, the shorter ones, and number 3 goes for like home reading if you want to. And the first one is a quote from Gospel according to Luke. Who wants to take this one? To interpret it?
To interpret?
Yeah, into Russian. Alina. Okay. Then the next one is John Climacus. And he also says something on this question. I think Elena will interpret this one. And the last one is another quote from John Climacus. We will skip the Law of God piece because it's long. And the last one goes to Artyom. Artyom has been silent so far, so you get the second chunk limicus, okay? Let's start, please.
Другому он сказал: следуй за мной. Но тот сказал: Господи, позволь мне сначала пойти похоронить моего отца. Но он ответил ему: оставь мертвым погребать своих мертвецов, а ты иди и провозглашай Царствие Божие. Другой сказал: я последую за тобой, Господи, но сначала позволь мне пойти попрощаться с моим домом. И Иисус сказал ему: никто из тех, кто положил руку на плуг, чтобы пахать, и оглядывается назад, недостоин Царствия Божия.
Неблагонадежен.
Не подходит, да. Okay, next one.
Давайте пытаться подражать не жене Лота, но самому Лоту. Так как, когда душа оглядывается назад на то, что она оставила, подобно соли, она теряет свой вкус и становится впоследствии бесполезной.
Okay, so it means that Artyom gets the previous chunk limicus because it was Artyom's, but anyway. And what else do we have? Artyom, can you do the first chunk limicus?
I'll try to.
I took the wrong one.
Yeah, yes, please.
Давайте читать. Сейчас. Не очень понимаю.
So he's speaking about the previous gospel where the person wanted to bury his father, and John Callimachus kind of provides a commentary on this piece. Давайте внимательно рассудим.
Внимательно рассудим, как Господь рассудил все живое на земле.
Касательно жизни в миру.
Рассудил касательно. Значит, говоря, что говоря, что даже те, кто живы, на самом деле, говоря о тех, кто живых, как о мертвых, значит, когда он сказал, оставь их, оставь те, кто в мире, кто мертвые, погребать мертвецов.
Correct. And what does it mean, those who are in the world? Is it kind of a dangerous thing to be in the world? Or what's the problem? What do you think? What does it mean to be in the world?
To be in the world, I believe to be fulfilled by world itself. I mean, not world. Like in English, there is no another meaning, as I understand. World and world, because we have mir and mir in Russian. I believe to be fulfilled. I read a very nice article on that because, for example, I just can remember just part of it, and one priest explained that. Okay, for example, just let's consider the life of regular person in the world. He just wakes up, brushes teeth, and drink tea or coffee, then goes directly to work, then spends some time to reading newspaper, no things, no feelings inside, just to get further and to spend this day. And afterwards he just comes to the same place to have the same, useless talks with colleagues, the same useless arguments. And and the day before, he promised to himself not to have such arguments this day again, but he did it. And afterwards, he just spent time, maybe has a dinner, and went to bed without any idea, without any understanding of, and without any, even
remorse of things that he has done.
Without any, feeling that he lived this day and he lived out. And that's why this priest said that there are many corpses walking on the streets, and there are many who are not only corpses, but who has spirit inside, who live full life, and who can feel, who can share emotions, and who can spend not just like how to say, a living creature, but like a man, to spread out like a human, to spread out love and so on and so forth. That was the idea of that.
Okay, I see.
Hopefully I conveyed it.
Yeah, thanks.
Clearly.
I think there is still one more quotation. It goes under factor number 2, and after we do that, I think we'll watch a video on the screen. And that's from Иеромонах Нектарий Морозов. I think let me do this for you, and you follow the English version, okay? So that you compare how Russian texts follows its English counterpart, okay? Очень важно быть настойчивым в воцерковлении, что означает продолжать заниматься этим систематически. Вы должны начать с небольших вещей. Ходить в церковь не только когда вы хотите, но регулярно, каждую субботу и воскресенье и по большим праздникам. Молиться не только когда у вас появляется внутреннее желание, а каждое утро и вечер. Пусть ваше молитвенное правило будет коротким, но важно никогда его не пропускать. То же касается и исповеди, и причастия. Вы должны участвовать в них не просто раз в году, или когда у вас депрессия, плохое настроение, или у вас произошли какие-то проблемы и беды, а регулярно в соответствии с рекомендацией Духовного Отца. Все эти советы – это единственный возможный путь, особенно в начале, к тому, чтобы проснуться от духовного сна и стать сильнее. So let's make a pause here and switch to watching an interesting video, not about specifically churching, but about a church. And I'm saying a church because it's a part of the church. It's about the Russian Orthodox Church in America, and there is an interesting video about that. Okay. All right. Let us now watch the video. I promised that's about Russian Orthodox Church outside Russia, and in particular about their American part. I think it's an interesting video. And watch it and listen carefully because I'm going to ask questions. Okay.
In the year 988, in one of the most pivotal events in the whole of human history, Grand Prince Vladimir of Kiev baptized the people of Russia into the Orthodox Christian faith. This was perhaps one of the most significant baptisms since the baptism of Christ in the rivers of the Jordan, because the spiritual consequences of that conversion led to the creation of Holy Russia, the home of the most holy Theotokos. The same grace that came down upon the Russian people in the Dnieper River 1,025 years ago has flowed freely throughout the world, thanks to the missionary spirit of the Russian soul.
If we carefully examine the 1,000-year history of Russia, we see that we are not dealing with a decline. On the contrary, we see expansion. Where did the venerable saints and missionaries come from? Where did Russia go? Russia went into Japan and China, spreading the rays of the light of Orthodoxy, which Saint Vladimir had bequeathed to every Russian person. And those Russian people, like any Russian person, were Slavs. Our defining feature as Slavs is that we want to love others and impart something unto them. and we carry this light, this ray.
For the past 75 years, the faithful of the Russian Church abroad living in America would gather every July by the thousands in the small town of Jackson, New Jersey, to pay homage to this great event in the history of Russia and the world.
On that day, it seemed to me that the whole world was Orthodox, feeling that we weren't just small groups of people scattered everywhere, but sometimes that we could have 2,000 people that get together, even more than that.
Especially the immigrants who came to America. They used to all gather there in large numbers because they would meet their friends there. It was like a gathering place.
But what is the true meaning of St. Vladimir's Church in the 21st century? And why should the faithful gather there every July? Is it just nostalgia for the good old days of Roquefort? If we stop to take a closer look at the history and spiritual significance of this grand memorial, we slowly start to uncover the true meaning of this ancient church in the 21st century.
Since the earliest days of our diocese, our bishops have always gathered the faithful several times a year for pilgrimages. They understood that when gathering together in prayer, Orthodox Christians become spiritually reinforced to better face the temptations of the world.
It's really quite an amazing and unusual phenomenon in the Russian Church abroad. In comparison to other jurisdictions, I've never seen the same level of affection and the same level of continuity of memory, the same level of place of still existing authority of hierarchs that are now past.
Vladika Vitali, the founder of this church, was a man of great vision and great optimism. He had plans to spread the Orthodox faith here amongst the Americans, and he wanted this church, to use his own words, to be a beacon banner for the Russian people, most immediately for all of Orthodox Christians. He wanted people to rally around this church, for this church to be a spiritual center, someplace where, especially once a year, that we all gather together.
He was a very humble man, very humble man. He was, sort of a kind of a monastic spiritual man. So he contributed to building up Orthodoxy in America for all the days that he lived here.
Он сам был миссионером.
He was a missionary himself. He put this church forward to be an expression of that missionary spirit that he bore within himself.
Того миссионерского духа, который он сам носил в себе.
These men are extraordinary because they were born in a world, Tsarist Russia, that ceased to exist by the time that they were opposed. You would read about them arriving in Western Europe and arriving in the United States, and they were almost like, they might as well have been not from 30 or 40 years ago, they might as well have been from 500 years ago. They spoke in a way that was ancient. They looked in their personal countenances like they were ancient. And there was a grace about them that I think shocked the West. And they began to address the things of the modern world as if they came right out of the ancient world to address them.
And sadly enough, of course, all these people passed away. They're with the Lord now. There's less and less and less sad, So it's not what it used to be. That's the sad part I see now.
To an extent, we've forgotten about this missionary calling. If Vladika Vitali could see the state of things now, with all the Russians coming here to America and with so many American converts, I think he would tell us basically time to roll up our sleeves and get to work. We've been very focused on trying to build something up here, and now it's up to us to bear witness to that and to share it with the rest of America. And this church is here to remind us of that.
2013 marks the 1025th anniversary of the baptism of Russia, and also the 75th anniversary of the founding of St. Vladimir Memorial Church. At the spring session of the Diocesan Council in Howell, New Jersey, the hierarchs and council members discussed the organization of this year's celebration. Certain questions began to arise, such as, why is it necessary to mark this anniversary? How does this Russian feast, in honor of a Slavic prince, relate to the new generation of Roquefort clergy and faithful, many of whom have no prior connection to Russian culture?
For me, a convert priest, Vladimir, in his endeavor, found what I was seeking for, found the fullness of the Orthodox faith, the fullness of a way of life that connects us to Christ. And so, for me, My journey was much more humble than St. Vladimir's, but his journey is my journey. And so we in America, we converts, really relate to St. Vladimir and his discovery of the faith as our discovery of the faith.
Well, St. Vladimir's is meaningful. It's historically seed. It's the root of our Orthodoxy seed. So we have to remember these saints, how they brought Christianity to us, what they did for us, and it's the root of Orthodoxy for us in America.
The meaning of this event has changed over time. Today it means preserving our traditions, preserving the faith of our youth.
In past years, everyone would gather in order to pray for the salvation of Russia, and that Russia would be free from the communist yoke. But now that Russia is free, now we have to focus more on praying for the unity of our church and for the unity of our Christian family.
In 1988, several thousand people gathered in Jackson to celebrate the millennium of the baptism of Rus, and most of them were Russian, or had some sort of Slavic roots. 25 years later, we look at the Russian church abroad, specifically the Eastern American diocese, and we see that 50% or more of the clergy and faithful at any given large spiritual gathering are converts and non-Russians. This interesting phenomenon will no doubt continue at this year's St. Vladimir's Day, when the fullness of the diocese will be represented in a celebration of our faith.
Is present in many countries all across the world, and we have the unique experience of dealing with Orthodoxy within an environment that is not indigenously Russian Orthodox. And by doing so, we attract non-Orthodox, we strengthen our Orthodoxy, we preserve our Russianness, and that's basically what it is.
But in an ever-changing world, the question of Russia's very existence has been called into question by some critics, who are of the opinion that the church abroad is the church of the 18th century, unable to connect with people in the 21st century.
Roper is not the church of the 18th century, it's the church of the 1st century and the church of the 21st.
These are the types of issues that members of the Diocesan Council would like to address during a special symposium on July 27th.
Not only do we have churches that celebrate the services in Slavonic, we have them in English, we have them in French, we have them in Spanish, all just within our diocese.
Warcourt has developed its own culture, and we interact with all of the other cultures that are existent. We're welcoming to everybody, and we try not to focus specifically on the Russian ethnicity.
Русская зарубежная церковь – это лик особый.
The Russian Church abroad is the face of a special, sincere, and pure zeal for God, for the Holy Church. This is very valuable, very precious.
We practice a very traditional, very conservative form of Russian Orthodoxy. We tend to shy away from innovation.
If you never know what's going to happen next, then it's not encouraging. If you feel you're drifting away from the past, drifting away from tradition, it's not encouraging.
That's the danger of modernism, because it wants to constantly change. And you can change the message of Christ. You can change the church. The church is the church, the body of Christ. He was before, he is today, and he will be tomorrow.
Свидетельство Русской Православной Церкви.
The very witness of the Russian Orthodox Church is in her otherworldliness, rejecting the notion of conforming to the constantly mutating conditions of modernity, turning down all of these changes.
Сегодня идет нивелировка, размывание многих и важных.
Today we are witnessing a leveling, an erosion of many important moral positions. We are told that this is a matter of little concern, that we must keep up with the times in order to soften our image, and thus introduce the most vulgar pluralism into the very life of the Church. They preach tolerance, that is, adaptation to and conciliation with evil. All of this is absolutely wrong. And in this regard, the Church abroad has always been very, very strict. foremost with herself.
Мне кажется, что именно русская
And it seems to me that it is precisely the Russian Church abroad that so carefully preserves holy tradition and our traditions. It is she in particular who is capable of providing us with such pastors who would truly hold in their hands the living thread of inheritance, of continuity with Archbishop of Verki, Metropolitan Filaret, Metropolitan Anastasi. These individuals whose names I've listed were not only and not so much theologians, as much as they were mystical men of prayer on behalf of the Church.
We're called to conserve that what was given to us by our forefathers. That's the trademark of Orthodoxy. We cannot just let that go and begin changing like Western denominations do this all the time.
The Christian faith was given in its fullness by Christ to the apostles, so it must have been complete and perfect from the beginning, because if that were not the case, then living today we would have an advantage over the apostles, and there'd be no reason to read the New Testament. We'd know more than they did.
Nowadays, the word conservatism has acquired a negative shade of meaning. Yet tradition, Greek paradosis, Latin traditio, is one of the key notions of Christian theology, indicating the succession and passing on the church truth from generation to generation, from Christ and the apostles to the present day. Christian church cannot but be traditional and therefore conservative in a positive sense of the word. In the era when moral principles of society have been shaken under the influence of secular and liberal ideology, Christian conservatism and traditionalism are especially needed.
Our Orthodox Church traditions are eternal, and in our Russian Orthodox Church we have a very specific tradition. And if we forget our past, we won't have any kind of future. We're not living in the past, but we remember our past because in the past we had many spiritual heroes, like St. Vladimir in his own special way. Those character traits which those spiritual heroes had can be taken up by any Orthodox Christian, even in the modern world.
Celebrating the 1025th anniversary of the baptism of Russia, our diocese has an opportunity to come together as a sign of our unity in Christ. With so much turbulence in the world around us, the fundamental virtues of the Russian Church abroad are crucial to the future of Orthodox America. The upcoming celebration is more than just a celebration of the baptism of Russia. It is a celebration of the spiritual legacy of Ropor.
I hope that all of us, I know that I am, going to take advantage of this wonderful opportunity to be in Jackson, because it will be a celebration of the fullness of the Orthodox faith, of the fullness of the unity of the Orthodox faith. And just as in America and its foundation in Orthodoxy was under the Russian Church, so too maybe we head back in that direction.
Returning to these traditions is no easy task, but it begins when the clergy start to inspire the faithful to come together. I'm asking that all of you can begin to make plans to participate with as many pilgrims from your parishes as possible, so that we might show the whole world that Orthodoxy remains vibrant and united as we move into the future. Indeed, our strength is in our unity.
И возрадуется сердце ваше, и радость ваша никто не отнимет у вас. Только подумайте, какая здесь глубина, что у нас действительно возрадуется сердце великой духовной радостью, и что эта духовная радость ничто в жизни не может отнять от православного человека. Мы наследники князя Владимира. Ну, почувствуйте своим сердцем, что мы наследники, православные люди. Наше достояние здесь, на этой земле, приобщиться к части неба. Вот почему и сказано, что эта радость никто абсолютно в мире не может от нас отнять, как и доказано бесчисленными угодниками Божиими, постоявшими за Святую Русь. Аминь.
Let's stop here.
Anyway, so I hope you enjoyed listening to and watching the video.
We did.
Right, and just a couple of questions to discuss it. First, did you understand how the celebration of Saint Vladimir and his memory and himself were relevant to Orthodox Americans? Like Saint Vladimir was the prince in Rus, Russia, and they live far away and in different time. And how do they relate to him? Did you catch that?
The main church in America is devoted to Saint Vladimir?
No, no, it's not the main church.
I mean...
Yes, it's not the main cathedral that is devoted to him. The main one is devoted to Saint Nicholas.
Mm-hmm.
And not right? Any other thoughts?
It was the idea of some bishop together in that place once a year to remember Saint Vladimir.
Right, so they are speaking about celebration of Saint Vladimir's Day.
To feel the unity of the Russian Church.
Well, it was said that they got together to see each other, to be unity, because unity also gave them strength, etc.
Yeah, because they're
right?
scattered around the United States.
Yeah, probably.
In a non-Orthodox world.
Right. There was another idea that, like Saint Vladimir baptized Rus, and people there were pagans before, the same way in America people are converting to Orthodox Christianity, and basically they're kind of subject to the same thing as the ancient Russian people were. So
this is the symbol of missionary.
Well, maybe so. The Russian Church is doing the same thing as Saint Vladimir did for, for Russia I should say centuries ago, right? And another question, they also discussed modernism versus tradition, and said that modernism brought some risks and kind of problems. And can you please try to recall what they were?
The problems or risks?
Of modernism. Like, what are the problems with modernism inside the church and church life?
I heard just many bases, moral bases converted into something else, and people just stop doing some good things which used to be traditional ones, and to follow some new and modern way of life, and they change lifestyle, and so.
Yeah, but why is it bad to be modern, and isn't it archaic to be traditional? Yes, please.
Maybe when they preach tolerance, it can be in life. It can be in a form of just committing sins.
Mm-hmm.
So, and in this context, conservatism is the means of sticking to holy tradition. That's why, according to Father Artemi, we should preserve this traditionalism. Just to keep, to preserve our faith, because it was perfect in the old days when Jesus came. Why should we change it? It was perfect.
That's a nice idea.
We should preserve it. The only thing we should do.
All right. Anything else you want to add? Any impressions from the video?
It was marvelous. It was marvelous because it was the first time in my life that I saw Father Potapov.
Victor.
Oh yes, Victor Potapov.
How do you know about him? Did you listen to him on BBC?
Yes, exactly.
Oh, you did?
Yes, I did.
That's
and it was
interesting.
Just thank you very much. It was a feast for me to see him.
Actually, he is the rector of a parish in a certain city which I visit in the United States, so I kind of see him all the time there. And he has a very kind matushka, who would bring me from the parish, from the church to the metro station because it was very cold. So she offered to drive me. It was very kind of her.
Sweet.
Yeah, and kind of actually when I was there the previous time, they said it was the time when there was this military conflict between Ukraine and well, Russia, Ukraine, whatever you say, whatever you call it, and there were all these military actions, events, and they told me, we probably care about you more than you do about yourself, so go to Russia and tell them that we worry about you. Yeah. So yeah, they try to be together with us, even spiritually, perhaps, if not kind of coming to Russia. Anyway, anything else you want to share on the video?
I was happy to see my spiritual father there.
Oh, were you?
Mm-hmm. Father Artemi.
I see. Very nice. So you see. I saw Metropolitan Hilarion speaking English for the first time, actually.
Yeah, just
with Russian accent.
Yeah,
well, but still.
Yeah, he was fluent.
Yeah, actually. I should say, I believe most of us have Russian accent. So.
We're Russians.
Yeah, obviously.
And by the way,
I think before we finish, let us quickly discuss one more question because we have
my
still
friend,
a couple
he
of
spent
minutes.
like 20 years in America, and he can change.
Really?
From yeah.
Doesn't have an accent.
When he speaks with not native people, he changed the way of speaking with something like a little bit easier version of English. Yes, but when he speaks with native speakers,
nobody can tell if he comes from Russia. I see.
Sorry.
But what did you say? Who did you say that about?
It's my friend who just spent in the United States like since his childhood, and about this accent, because I believe that Father Hilarion just spoke out for quite a big auditorium, and he used this language on the purpose to be understood. And I just remembered my friend. He just also changed the way of speaking. It depends on with whom he speaks. For example, if he speaks with some regular people whose English not native language, he just speaks this way, as Father Hilarion did. But when he speaks with natives, so he just changed it dramatically, I would say. And he just speaks like an automatic gun.
All right, let us quickly speak about question number 5. Let me try to rephrase it a little for the discussion. And what are the problems that hinder a person? Hinder means kind of be an obstacle for a person to come to the church and get churched. So what stops or prevents people from coming to the church and getting churched? What do you think? Yes, please.
I think number one is friends and family. Although they love you, but when they see you change your, I don't know, clothes style, and they notice that you don't go to theater or restaurants so much, but you go to church more often, they start worrying. They start asking, are you sure you go to Orthodox church or something else? Because for Russian people it's normal that if you're Orthodox, you go to church once a year for Pascha, for Easter, and you get the eggs. And it is quite strange, for at least for my surrounding, to be churched.
But I believe if you go to restaurants too often, they will ask why you go to restaurants so often. They might say so.
Maybe they'll be happy that she has the opportunity to go to restaurants that often.
It's just a joke. So,
any other hindrances?
I believe that many people just consider church like right services, just a service to fulfill their special needs. For example, if someone would like to get a good job, he just goes to church and put some candle and pray a little bit and ask, okay, please help me. Or if he doesn't or she doesn't succeed with that, with this, how to say, task, he just probably becomes a more, how to say, church church person, but afterwards, when his or her needs fulfilled, so immediately go out. I heard the story about one girl. She just used to come to church very often, very strict and regularly fulfill everything that was necessary. And afterwards, one day he just went out. She just went out and never appeared. And then when one person met her and asked it, okay, what was wrong and why are you going to somewhere else? And she said, no, I just prayed to God to give me a good husband. So I found my husband, so no, that's not necessary to go. Yeah, that was basically it.
Yes, please.
I think sometimes traditions, for example, very strict fasts, can prevent people from going to church because all other people are not fasting, and you have to observe 2 long fasts and Friday and Wednesday.
Right. And that's in case they don't know they can, soften the fast a little bit in case they can't.
Yeah, but
any other thoughts?
Or probably too much efforts from the beginning, as you said. I agree with you, because a person just starts trying to fulfill everything just from the scratch, and like in 1 month he becomes like powerless and so exhausted and exhausted and so stop doing anything.
Alina, you wanted to say something, right?
Maybe one of the hindrances, it's not having a room of your own. That's essay by Virginia Woolf, room of one's own. It's like it can be regarded both as in a literal and metaphorical way. It's just like some square meters and your free time, and the same. It's like inner peace, and it can't be reached very quickly. And so I think this room of your own is quite important.
Just to have it.
Do you mean free time or?
Yes, free time, and not just an hour, or it's like not measured in an astronomical way, or it's something else. And you need to have it, just some moments of inner peace. Then you can pray and to give your time to God. It's quite important.
Thanks. Fine. I think we don't have a lot of time anymore. And can we please go to text number 5? Text number 5 has 2 quotations. One from Saint Paisius of Mount Athos, who's been recently canonized, which is very good news. And another, and the other quotation comes from Роман Nectari. Again, he's just, he's considered, just a contemporary father, ordinary father. And let me ask Alina that one to take the first, and Alina, do you want to take the second? The other Alina, okay?
I can.
So we start with that one. I need to differentiate between you somehow the next time. Okay, please go ahead. Yes.
Когда люди говорили мне, что они соблазнились, когда увидели некорректное поведение в школе, я ответила им следующее. Если попросить муху, если спросить муху, где можно найти цветы поблизости, она ответит: я не знаю насчет цветов, но я знаю, где можно найти банки, навоз и нечистоты в помойке. И муха скажет тебе обо всех помойках, которые она посетила. А если спросить пчелу, видела ли она поблизости нечистоты, то она ответит: нечистоты нет, я не видела нечистоты, но я видела вокруг много благоухающих цветов. И пчела расскажет тебе про цветы. Видите, мухи знают все о нечистотах, в то время как пчелы знают, где поблизости есть лилии и гиацинты цветут.
Немного дальше.
Немного дальше. Как я понимаю это, люди некоторые люди как пчелы, некоторые люди как мухи. Те, которые как мухи находят во всем, в каждой ситуации плохое и думают об этом, они ничего хорошего не видят. А те, кто как пчелы, находят хорошее во всем.
Thanks, very good. And the second one, please.
Люди приходят в церковь, чтобы спастись, но они не становятся святыми автоматически. Они приходят, как бы приносят свои страсти, грехи в церковь. Некоторые перестают бороться с собой и живут как придется, как получится. Очень трудно иметь дело с такими людьми в церкви. Другие борются, но с наименьшим успехом. Однако другие люди побеждают себя и свои грехи с Божьей помощью. Необходимо узнавать себя очень хорошо, свои крайние слабости, чтобы не судить никого и не отягощаться слабостями других, но проявлять сочувствие и сострадание к этому человеку.
Thanks, very well. I think that's it for today, and let us finish our discussion with prayer, which is called in English "Meet it is" and in Russian "Достойно есть." Let us probably stand up and sing it in Russian. 3-4. Достойно есть якого истину, блажите тя Богородицу, пресноблаженную и пренепорочную, и Матерь Бога нашего, честнейшую Херувим, и славнейшую без сравнения Серафим, без истления Бога Слова росшую, сущую Бога